You're listening to Potty Mouth Radio, the home of movies, music, television, and comedy.
And now, the hunt for the perfect album.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Hunt for the Perfect Album with Billy and Dave, where one at a time we're trying to find the perfect album. And spoiler alert, we didn't find it this week. But Dave, tell us what you've made me listen to.
Nice to see you too, cunt. Canadian songstress extraordinaire Jane Siberry and her lovely album Bound by the Beauty.
Yes, tell us about your history with this and why you picked it. And is this the first? Was this your introduction to Jane Siberry? I know nothing about her outside of this album, so
it was either being recommended this by a friend in high school, or it was her song on the Crow soundtrack. Because they were around about the same time. She, the closing credits song, "Can't Rain All the Time" or something like that.
I'm a big fan of the Crow and that soundtrack in particular. I don't recall that.
It'd be the last track. It's like "It can't rain all the time." That's uncanny, by the way. You don't need to go and look it up now. Fucking identical. No, very pretty song. She's got a lovely voice. So it was either that or it was this album, one of the two. Yeah. And look, I've heard a couple of subsequent albums, which I haven't kind of gelled with as much as this. I don't know if it just kind of hit me at the right time, but I've always loved this album, and I like some songs off other albums. Yeah. But yeah, not. It's just weird that way. It's just I love this album, and I think she's awesome. Yeah. But
well, let's get into it. Look. I was being facetious when I slagged you off in the intro there, but I was being only partially facetious. I did like this album, but this is an album that took a long time for me to warm to. Little peek behind the curtains, we're recording this about 3 weeks later than we were supposed to, because I kept saying to Dave, I haven't had a chance to fully take it in. Because I'd listened to this album, but I felt like I really had to listen to it more times than I had to say what I needed to say. From memory, and I think, again, some of that might be expectations. From memory, when you threw this at me when we spoke last, I think you
Did I say something like, you like Joni Mitchell? She's another Canadian songstress. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's on me.
Because you brought up Joni Mitchell. This is much, 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 much closer to Laurie Anderson. This is, and I've looked up a little bit about Jane Siberry. This is described as art pop or pop art, and I think that makes sense to me. I don't think that. So I went in expecting Joni Mitchell. I thought I was in for more kind of folk
slightly closer to like Strange Angels, the second of the Laurie Andersons. Yep.
Yes, it's a lot more musical than Laurie Anderson's first album. So I think you're right, it's closer to Strange Angels. The issue I had with this is that it kept throwing me off. There are some songs that I really, really like for the first 3 minutes. I think that most of the tracks on this album are a little bit too long, and I think that every single song starts stronger than it ends, because most of them do start as quite traditional kind of pop songs, and by about halfway through, in most of these songs, generally you get to a really kind of weird, arty, repetitive segment of the song, and it just keeps going and going and going and going and going, and I'm like, no, stop it, Jane, stop it. If every single track on this album was 2 minutes long instead of 4.5, I would have loved it. It would have been closer to a perfect album for me. Okay. Because there's no song. Well, okay, there's one song that I don't like. All the rest of the songs I really like, but they grate on me by the end. So, we kick it off with the title track, "Bound by the Beauty." Yep. and I like that track. I do. Again, the only thing that threw me off about this track was the expectations of you having thrown out Joni Mitchell's name, and I'm like, well, this isn't what I expected.
They're both Canadian and they're both ladies.
So I like this track. Again, it is one of the tracks that I think by about... I mean, look, I'm just going to skip ahead to a minute to go and bring it up and we'll see what's going on.
Everything the kiss, everything the earthness, everything the bird, the bird, the bird, the bird.
You get the idea. Even that bridge, I like it. And then she goes and does that. And I'm like, cut that out alone. The song's 25 seconds shorter. And like, so, again, every song I really like to start with. The second track, Something About Trains, is another one. I really like the beginning of this track.
Something about trains, something about love, something about this old earth and the way it looks from up above, something about satellites, something about down below, something about the hissing of
I reckon this is probably my second or third favourite track on the album. And to be clear, the song that I like most that I'm going to pick for the playlist, I really, really, really like.
I'm so intrigued to know what that is.
Well, I'll be curious. Let me ask, what's your favourite track from the album?
I think you're about to play it.
Hockey. That was this is my second favourite. This was my favourite until I got further down the album. I really, really like this song. It's very Canadian, and I am a hockey fan myself. So yeah, I like this track.
winter time in the frozen river. Sunday afternoon. They're playing hockey on the river.
This song actually was the one that did remind me of Joni Mitchell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, this I think, don't know if you recall when we were doing Christmas songs,
Yes,
and I had The River,
Yeah.
and I said, I almost had a Jane Siberry song. It was this
okay.
one,
Yeah.
because both of them to me evoke this image of kids going out and playing in the snow on the in Christmas holidays. This one doesn't overtly mention Christmas, so I went with the river instead, where it doesn't get a mention.
But it definitely does evoke
it's
that.
that same thing.
And same thing, you've got those sleigh bell sounds in the background. I think the
And
production...
a sneaky naughty word. We love a sweet song with a naughty word in it.
Yeah, I think the production of this album is really nice as well. I think she's very clearly a talented songwriter. I do like her voice. Again, there's one track on the album I don't like, and I don't know if she's purposefully doing something with her voice in it, but I just don't like it. Everything Reminds Me of My Dog is fine. The Valley is fine. Again, from memory, they're both tracks that towards the end, I'm like, come on, let's move it along, Jane. But then we get to what is my favourite track from the album, which is The Life is the Red Wagon, which... I don't know, maybe that'll throw you off because, again, it's not like a straightforward song. There's some interesting parts to it, but I just, for some reason, it struck with me. I really liked this track.
Life is a river, it's no big deal. But when the fear dragon, whoa, you pull from me, and I pull from you.
Really like that track.
It's beautiful.
I'm a big Air Supply fan. It sounds a
who
little
isn't?
bit Air Supply-ish. But that's easily my favourite track from the album. Every time I listen to it, I didn't get sick of that one towards the end. It's probably the only track that by the end I was still kind of comfortable and in a happy place. Half Angel, Half Eagle is an interesting one. It's the apart from Hockey, the only track on the album that has that little E next to it for explicit, I actually can't fully understand a lot of what she's saying, but I did look up the lyrics, and apparently it was a bit controversial because there is a segment where there's quite a few slurs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that what this? Because I don't recall swearing in it.
I mean,
that did. Oh, wait on. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. So, I mean, the song I was reading that apparently. Oh wow. Yeah. Oh yeah. Geez. I'm just looking at the lyrics again. I was gonna read it out, but I would just have to beat the whole thing. Which look, I'll do. I'll read it, but I'm gonna have to beat most of it. I mean, the premise of the song I was reading is that it's about a kind of a scummy city, and there's this segment of the song which is supposed to be kind of things that you would just hear in the city, but fucking unions cap, like okay.
Yeah, it earns at sea.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I have nothing wrong with language like that in a song if that is the point of it. I think a great example is the Pogues' "Fairy Tale of New York," where they famously drop the F-bomb.
There's a massive difference between using words, and I won't use them because it's just more beeping you'll need to do. But there's a big difference between using words through the voice of a character, or to point out
100%
how wrong those words are by putting them in context, than to have a nasty hate song that is using them.
Definitely.
They're totally different things.
I mean, my issue with this song isn't the language at all. It's the same as what I've said about others that just by about minute, kind of 3, I'm a little bit like, oh, come on, move it on. But I do enjoy, the start of it.
Someone put down in the New York subway a newspaper picked up in Australia.
Again, it's I think that description of art pop fits, particularly that song. And the next one, which is the only song I really, really hate. La Jalouse.
Yeah, probably my least favourite.
Yeah.
I said no.
You know what? Listening back, it sounds like she is actually singing. Maybe it's later on in the song because I remember her voice really irritating me in this song. I'm just going to skip forward a bit and see what's happening.
I grabbed your shoulders and I threw you as hard as ever.
I don't know what to tell you. I swear that I don't know.
I don't. My memory is that it's just a kind of a very slow, pretty song that after because half angel, half eagle's kind of. I hesitate to use the terms like rocky, but it's kind of as heavy as the album gets. Probably is there's more guitar than there is in anything else.
Yeah.
And so okay, and then she throws the like slow, which I would never go out and put on a playlist, but over the sort of flow of the album, I don't mind it being there because it's kind of it's coming after Half Angel, Half Eagle, where you've got lots of inappropriate language and guitars, and so it feels appropriate to have it's just fucking.
So I think overall this is the least consistent of the albums that you've given me. I really, really like Life is the Red Wagon, but it's probably not one that I'll be putting on a playlist. But so yeah, I think I'm really mixed on this. There are parts that I really like. There are parts that I really don't. I think what I'll probably do is I think I will check out some other Jane Siberry. I noticed that when I clicked on her name, nothing from this album is in like her top streamed songs. This album's very low down her list of. It's not one of the popular releases. So
no, I think it's. Well, I think it's. Firstly, I think it's quite early. It's only one of her. It's one of her earliest albums, but yeah, it's not as easy to find. There's When I Was a Boy, I think and The Walking are the two albums that I think did a lot better.
Yeah.
But which weirdly, I've listened to them both. I like them both fine. Nothing on them really grabs me or anything the way probably this album up to probably Half Angel, Half Eagle.
Okay.
If I'm perfectly honest, I probably skip tracks 8, 9, and 10 on this album most times. I like them, but I don't love them, whereas I love this, everything that comes before.
Yeah. So I
think weird.
I think this is I mean, without double checking and going back, I think this is going to be the lowest score I've given an album you've given me. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It's, there's I
think that's probably the same as, Strange Angels, I think, was a 6.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's good stuff here for sure, and she's obviously very talented, which is why I think I will continue to go check out more of what she's done. But this album just didn't really speak to me in the same way that, a lot of you've given me some albums that have gone high into my rotation.
It's always going to be the case.
Yeah. When I started collecting, vinyl, Primitives was one of the first albums I bought. So, but this one, just didn't. So 6 out of 10. But there we go.
Very, very close to having Crash as one of my C songs, and it just missed the cut.
I was the same. That only missed it for me when that turned into us having to sing songs, and I was like, well,
my whole list changed when that happened.
All right. Well, next week it's my turn, and I'm going back to the Australian music well with another spin-off of my all-time favorite band. Who I'm sure, as you know, it's the Locksmiths, who the only reason they haven't been on this show is because you know most of their albums, but you know how much I love them. We've had Mark on the show.
Lovely fellow.
And I'm giving you a spin-off which does not involve Mark. I'm giving you the Guild League, which was a very short-lived spin-off featuring Tali, the lead singer of the Locksmiths. And it's very different though. They do a lot of different stuff. They released 2 albums. One is really kind of soft rock, I would describe. I'm going to give you the one which I guess I almost call ska. I'm giving you Speak Up by the Guild League.
Speak Up by the Guild League. Okay.
Yes. Looking at the Guild League, they have 370 monthly listeners. So I can safely say
371 in his
I can safely say that no one listening to this podcast knows about the Guild League, but love
listeners,
them.
We shall all learn together.
I love them, and I particularly love this album, so I'll be really curious to hear what you think of it. So,
good.
All right, that's it for today. I'm going to play us out with the closing track of Bound by the Beauty. Let's end it out with Are We Dancing Now?